Oh boy, this video's been a long time coming. I always wanted to talk about Dragon Ball Heroes properly, but I kept running into a problem. The anime never covered the Demon Realm stuff, so the only story I could cover was the manga. While the manga tells a fine enough plot on its own, I could tell from the trailers of the Heroes arcade game that the manga did not cover the full story. So I scoured Google high and low, finding nothing really concrete to tell me the original game's story. Luckily, my man Salad Saiyan hooked me up with a Google Doc created by Dave2121LV on Twitter, who went over every relevant arc in the Heroes arcade story. So with the story of the arcade game and manga, I'll first piece together the backstory of the Zeno timeline, and then cover how the fight between two time-bending forces tore it apart. Dragon Ball Heroes once started as a simple card-based arcade game with minimal story content. It was about players interacting with the history of Dragon Ball through predetermined avatars, gaining more races and variants as the series went on. Outside of Toyotaro's Victory Mission manga, there was no major plot. It wasn't until the fourth quote-unquote season, I guess you could call it, called God Mission, that they really started dedicating a serious story to the game. So, if you're wondering why the story discussion of Heroes skips the first 3 entries in the series, well, that's why. To start off, we have to address events happening long before any event of the original series. 75 million years ago to be exact. The Supreme Kai of Time in this era, named Aios, was training successors for her position. The candidates would be 2 Glins named Mechikabura and Chronoa, the latter having already worked as a Kai like King Kai. Some parts of this next section come from bits of info from the 3DS game Ultimate Mission X, which I only use if I feel it ties into the story well and doesn't contradict much. There exists a bird known as Toki Toki, who has the ability to manipulate and create time itself. This results in it both being a great asset for the one who governs time, and a prime target for villains. You may recall this bird from the Xenoverse series, being an essential plot point there. Once a Toki Toki dies, an egg is laid that will hatch the next bird of time. However, in this era, an unprecedented occurrence happens where 2 eggs have been laid at once. Both of Aios' students were given a Toki Toki egg to hatch and raise into adulthood. Whoever could raise their respective Toki Toki the best would become the new Supreme Kai of Time. Mechikabura, harboring some sinister intentions with the bird, attempted to speed up the process with dark magic, but this ended up producing some faulty results. A new bird named Dogi Dogi would emerge from this egg, born from and harnessing dark sorcery. Some sources, however, say this bird was actually a malformed copy of Toki Toki, and that this wasn't born from the second egg. If so, then that just means the other egg simply failed to hatch. Regardless, this warped bird would cause disruptions in time, leading to Chronoa finding out her colleague's schemes. Not that the guy with completely red, evil dark eyes had the friendliest demeanor to begin with. She would seal him away within the crack of time, a void of time crystals outside of the flow of history. Here, the banished Glind would build the foundation of the Demon Realm as its ruler, and those who joined him would be considered demons. Note that the history of the Demon Realm here was made before Daima, so see this as a separate interpretation of the place. Some elements are also swapped around from both interpretations. Instead of the Demon Realm being older than most of the multiverse, it was created 75 million years ago as a place for those banished by the Supreme Kai of Time. Instead of the Glind being a Demon Realm race that abandoned their home, the main Demon Realm races here were originally just banished Glinds, like fallen angels, if you discount the actual angels in Dragon Ball. The Dogi Dogi bird would somehow disappear, but he will become quite relevant in a future arc. Kronoa would entrust the monitoring of Toki Toki to her disciples Demigra, Gravy, and Poutine. However, these three turned out to actually be followers of Meki Kabura and started doing nefarious experiments on Toki Toki, so she also banished them to the Crack of Time too. After this point, she would raise Toki Toki into a fine time god bird, succeeding Ios as the new Supreme Kai of Time. While not tied to the main Dragon Ball Heroes story, I think it would be fun to bring this up here, as I can't imagine this being much different in the main story. In the game Super Dragon Ball Heroes World Mission, we learned that the first member of the Time Patrol was a man named Silas. Once a member of the Galactic Patrol, he held a strong sense of justice, but that ended up clouding his judgment. So when he witnessed the atrocities committed by beings like Majin Buu, and how he was forbidden from interfering, he sought to rewrite history into a world without evil. Kronoa obviously couldn't allow him to go through with it, and sealed him into the Crack of Time. Seems to be her go-to solution, huh? I may talk about his story another day, but for now, let's continue. In the events of the original Dragon Ball story itself, we know the Zeno timeline is a bit different. Well, what is the Zeno timeline, I hear you asking? It's a world separate from the main timeline, where the Zeno characters actually come from. These guys are given the subtitle Zeno to show they come from this universe, like Zeno Goku. We can assume the events of the original 6 Dragon Ball arcs remain untouched, so nothing of note there. The first change this world experienced was the Garlic Jr. movie, as Zeno Gohan recognized the castle later on. We know through Zeno Goku being shocked at Super Saiyan Blue's existence that the Zeno characters aren't made aware of all characters, forms, or events outside of their history. So if they recognize something, they more than likely experienced it in their own timeline. We don't know if they went through every Z movie here, but it's pretty likely. However, to be fair, I'll only mention the ones we know for sure. Also, the villains later will have the Zeno name attached to them, so they have to be from the same timeline. Unless the Zeno moniker refers to multiple different timelines, but the promotional material makes it clear that the Zeno timeline isn't any more than the standard present and future timeline pairing, just with its own takes on them. The Saiyan arc obviously happened, but we know the Tree of Might took place afterwards, so the cast of that movie had to be a little different to justify going to Namek later. Potentially World's Strongest also happened, and so the same thing applies there if so. We also know the Z-Fighters defeated Lord Slug, as Gohan knows the Namekian whistle weakness when facing him later. Since the Namek arc seemingly played out the same, you may think the events of the movie went differently. But since we know False Super Saiyan was actually just regular Super Saiyan the whole time in the script, the results should be the same. Just now, Goku can use the form at will. King Kai was convinced that Lord Slug could not be defeated by Frieza, and maybe not even a Super Saiyan could defeat him. So, Zeno Goku probably still had to use the Kaioken times 100 and Spirit Bomb combo. The Android arc probably followed close to what we know from the main timeline. Funny enough, a parallel Zeno future timeline must also have been created, which is where Xenotrunks comes from. Present Xenotrunks never appears later, I guess to avoid confusion. Goku is aware of Broly, so some of the Broly movie events have to take place. However, the big difference potentially happens at the end of the arc. It's not clear if the Cell shown later is before his self-destruction, or if he is Super Perfect Cell. And in the manga, Fusion Reborn Goku doesn't have a halo. While you could just chalk that up to artistic mistake, I'm gonna work off the idea that it's accurate. If Goku doesn't have a halo during Fusion Reborn, it either means he didn't die to Cell, or he was revived at some point beforehand. Maybe Gohan locked in, didn't get too arrogant, and actually finished the job. Or maybe Goku didn't discourage his friends from reviving him. If Goku was still alive, what big differences would really happen in the Buu arc? Gohan slacked off during the 7 Years of Peace, so I'm sure Goku being there to protect Earth wouldn't change that. This would mean he'd be around to raise Goten, but I don't think Goten's personality would change that much. However, now he probably wouldn't have the Goku haircut. The biggest change I could see is Vegeta may not become Majin, as Goku is now always around for a fight. There would be no sense of urgency for a rematch. Though Majin Buu would still have to be revived somehow, so maybe he still does give in to close the gap. And I don't know if Goku would have Super Saiyan 3 to help him survive the many battles with Buu. Though, seeing how Vegeta didn't need the afterlife or some other special way to attain the 3rd level, there's always a slight chance Goku could achieve the form on Earth with 7 years of training. I don't know how he'd know the fusion technique though. Perhaps he went to Otherworld at some point and learned it from a Metamoran. Regardless, we know Fusion Reborn happens in the Xeno timeline, along with Wrath of the Dragon, since Xeno Goku knows Tapion. Gohan unlocks his potential later in the story, so it's unclear if that means he unlearned the form post-Buu arc, or if Xeno Gohan never unlocked his potential in the first place. It's a common misconception I see spread around that Xenogoku went through the events of Battle of Gods. That is only hinted at in Ultimate Mission X, and even then that is debated. So for now, I'll assume he did not reach Super Saiyan God or meet Beerus and Whis in mainline heroes. What we know for sure is that the Xeno timeline experienced the events of GT, but Xenogoku when recruited is an adult. So the obvious two choices are he wasn't wished into a kid at all, or he was turned back into an adult later somehow. Whenever the Time Patrol interacts with GT's events, Goku is either in Super Saiyan 4 or fused into Gogeta, so it's hard to tell if he's still a kid. The only instance of child Goku with Xeno characters present is in Jakku Mission trailers, as far as I can see. But Chronoa could have just taken Trunks to a different timeline entirely. And also, the trailers aren't the most reliable when it comes to story events being one-to-one with the game. While Goku didn't seem to lose much power in his child body, fighting up against the strongest people he's ever faced in base, he had trouble regulating Super Saiyan 3. So even though I don't think it would have made a big difference against Baby, things could have been slightly better for him at the start of their fight on Earth. Regardless, Goku is alive after the fight with Omega Shenron, so that's a huge change. Perhaps he didn't need to ascend to wherever with Shenron like at the end of the series. Vegeta also retains his old Z hair, or gets some extensions, because he certainly doesn't have that GT cut anymore. Also, it's important to know these Xeno characters may not be present in the year this story takes place. If it's anything like Xenoverse, then it would take place around age 850, which is closer to when Goku Jr. and Vegeta Jr. were born than the events of the Shadow Dragons. If it doesn't take place that year, we still have proof not all the Time Patrollers come from the exact same time period anyway. And that's what I have to share on their backstory. So let's get into the plot of the Dark Demon Realm arc. Dragon Ball Heroes is a card game that is created in the far future by Capsule Corp, where Earthlings can use arcade machines to interact with Dragon Ball's history. In the first 3 arcs, you just interact with the world and investigate some strange what-if scenarios throughout the series. But as you play the final missions of Jakku Mission, or Evil Dragon Mission, you are eventually introduced to Time Patrol Trunks as you fight against Dr. Wheelo's forces. This means Xeno Trunks has already been working for the Time Patrol for some time. After your victory, he counts on you to help him someday again in the future. Now with the manga in play, I'll talk about how the game's events and the manga's events differ. In the 4th season, called God Mission, the Dark Demon Realm appears. The manga actually shows us an event usually unseen in any other Dragon Ball Online adjacent media: the day Trunks joins the Time Patrol. As a punishment for messing with time, Chronoa confronts Trunks, thinking he's the cause of the recent distortions. Figuring out it was actually another group messing with history, she still berates him for tearing the fabric of reality in the Cell arc, as it's a serious universal crime, one emphasized later in Dragon Ball Super. Trunks, looking to make up for his mistakes, asks to help her investigate the disturbances in space-time. She decides he will be recruited into her Time Patrol, which only consists of them at the moment. As the story goes on, the player is also considered part of the Time Patrol. I won't refer to the Avatar much going forward, but when talking about the game's events, assume the Avatar is included in the Time Patrol. They enter the Dark Demon Realm to face the Masked Saiyan. The conflict results in his mask breaking, causing him to become a Great Ape. But even after his 10 times increase, he's no match for the Temporal Defenders. Which is funny considering the trailers hyped him up, with him barely being scratched by Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta. According to the first God Mission trailer, his power level is at least nearly 3 billion. Not that that really matters to the story, I just thought that was funny to bring up. The bio-android Mira arrives, along with demons resembling Devilman to clean up the Masked Saiyan's mess. The demon sorcerer scientist Towa appears as Mira becomes Super Mira, revealing all the battles in this space have been gathering Keely for her, which is the same measurement of energy Babidi used. In the manga, Towa and Mira are already here with the Masked Saiyan, residing in an unknown area non-existent in history. This location may be in the Demon Realm, but it's kind of unclear. The sorceress opens a portal for Mira to travel through history in order to obtain more energy so that their kind may be freed. Chronoa freezes the demons in place as the two Saiyans tussle. As you can see, like Xenoverse, Heroes has made the basis for their story by reusing part of Dragon Ball Online's premise, having the Time Patrol face the history-altering Time Breakers. Towa's goal is the same too, desiring to revive the Demon Realm. She even brings along minions from Online's Age 1000 setting, including those Devilman demons, Bio-Android Majins, and even General Bon of the Red Pants Army. Check out my Dragon Ball Online video if you want to know more about that. Base to base, the Masked Saiyan proves a match for Trunks, until the Time Patroller goes Super Saiyan and breaks his mask. Zeno Bardock, now free from the control of the Timebreaker mask, becomes a Super Saiyan 2 to match Trunks' own Super Saiyan 2 in the game. He even utilizes the power of the experiments on his own body to push him to Super Saiyan 3. But in the manga, he just fights in his base form. Even with all this power, they struggle to defeat the Timebreakers, who merely retreat back to their home base. Towa gives Mira more energy and orders him to destroy Earth, but it isn't that easy to defeat the Dragon Ball heroes. In the manga, the disgraced Mira becomes Super Mira to break the Supreme Kai's hold and attempts to attack Trunks before Zeno Bardock intervenes. The two Saiyans together overwhelm the Bio-Android, and so Towa retreats with him. Chronoa and Trunks start bickering as Zeno Bardock leaves, wandering through time and space on a journey. The game has a few more interesting events before this part ends. To turn the tides of battle, Zeno Dabura appears, having been saved from death by Boo's hands thanks to his dear sister Towa. Even with his help, the Timebreakers lose, and Towa dies from her injuries in Dabura's arms.
お兄様、どうか暗黒魔界を。
The Timebreakers retreat, and the Time Patrol counts on you to help them again in the future. As she mulls over what to do next, Chronoa fears the Demon Realm may have been unsealed. While she knows a few people like Dabura have escaped in the past, the Kai is afraid of the vast army of evil sorcerers breaking out. Just then, speak of the devil, Demigra makes himself known. Chronoa inquires if he's looking to free his fellow demons, to which Demigra says his days of serving them are long gone. As he makes his exit, he declares to Chronoa that he will one day take her position of Supreme Kai of Time, along with Toki Toki. Trunks vows to see this through and continue helping her out, so she decides to help him get stronger. To bring the ultimate training partner, she searches Trunks' memories for the strongest warrior he knows, teleporting in Xenogoku. And that's it for the God Mission story, if you're just talking about the manga, as the arcade game actually has 3 more sub-arcs to talk about before we continue. Remember how Towa died in the game? Well, with dark energy being poured into her body, along with her hatred for being killed, she resurrects as Dark Towa. She goes back into the timeline of Dragon Ball GT, opening the 3 Hell Gates of Glacial Hell, Hellfire, and Chaotic Hell. With this, the villains trapped there are freed once again and travel to Earth, causing widespread havoc. Yes, I do mean again, as judging by Vegeta being a Super Saiyan 4, this is after the Shadow Dragon arc. Super 17 manages to absorb Android 18 to take on a new powerful form with his sister's blonde hair. Gohan's anger during this fight reaches a boiling point, and he somehow reaches Super Saiyan 4 out of rage. Which isn't really how you unlock the form? Well, if anyone could unlock it that way, it'd be Gohan. With 3 Super Saiyan 4s against him, 17 stood no chance. The Hell Gates are captured by the Time Patrol and sealed using items called Key Swords. As the Timebreakers are sent back, suddenly a single blast puts them out of commission, coming from full power Super Saiyan 4 Broly. He could have achieved the form like the Broly from Evil Dragon Mission 7, who was enhanced to Super Saiyan 4 thanks to Black Smoke Shenron helping him control his Grade 8 form. He's eventually destroyed by the Time Patrol, and will surely never come back again. The next mission is kind of like a bonus story, where the Sulfurium plots of Raichi and Miyu come together to create Baby Hachiok, who, according to the trailers, was a big enough threat that Chronoa needed to recruit Zeno Goten to help. This allows Zeno Gotenks to be created, who's a weird case of GT Goten and future Trunks fusing together. Chronoa finds a disturbance in the era she became the Supreme Kai of Time, 75 million years ago. She requests the Time Patrol locate the whereabouts of the magician Demigra, thinking he could be the cause. The heroes find a brainwashed Grade 8 Gohan under the control of Poutine and Gravy, and encounter the Yun Demigra. He wonders how they could know about his interference with time, and decides to eliminate these obstacles. Yun Chronoa regards the Time Patrol with mistrust at first, but after a battle she senses no ill intentions in their hearts. She explains that Demigra has been conducting suspicious research on Toki Toki, which could have caused these distortions. Future Demigra, or I guess present Demigra from our perspective, reveals himself, having become a demon god since he last faced Chronoa and went back to the past. He's been teaching his past self how to become a demon god sooner, mocking himself for not fully taking advantage of Toki Toki's time powers. He then uses his magic to increase the ki of his younger being. With their defeat though, Yun Demigra is sealed in the demon realm like before, and demon god Demigra escapes to the future, declaring he will one day return to claim the world. And he wasted no time, as back in the modern day, Demigra allies himself with the Time Breakers to attack Earth. It's around this time that Xeno Goku was recruited into the Time Patrol. Xeno Vegeta also comes to assist his son, seeing this as an opportunity to get stronger. I'm guessing he was already recruited into the Time Patrol, or he could just be living on this era's Earth. After being made aware that Mira is here, Vegeta's interest is piqued. He knows that they brainwashed Kakarot's father with a strange mask, granting him enormous power. So the Saiyan Prince goes solo to face the Time Breakers alone. Of course, he ends up getting kidnapped by Toa and turned into another Time Breaker minion. The Black Masked Saiyan exclaims he will use this newfound power to destroy Kakarot once and for all. After Trunks fails to convince his father to come back, it results in a fight that breaks the mask and frees him of the brainwashing. The foolish prince says that he was thinking of using the power of the mask to his advantage, but it clearly didn't turn out well. So, hold on, did he purposely let them capture and control him like a Majin Vegeta 2.0? Wow, masterful gambit, sir. At some point during this conflict, Zeno Gohan is also recruited into the patrol. Our heroes find a shrine connected to the Crack of Time, battling through Timebreaker forces and pushing Demigra into his final form. Many will recognize this as his final boss form in Xenoverse 1. But after his defeat, his ki actually starts increasing, revealing he has pushed himself to what's called the Transcended form. He retreats for a bit, rendezvousing with his old colleagues Gravy and Poutine. But the combined might of the Time Patrol is still too much for him, sealing him back into the Crack of Time once again. As our heroes celebrate, it turns out these battles provided Toa the energy necessary to free the old Demon King Meki Kabura and his Dark Empire. And so that's it for the first story arc. Pretty big difference in interpretations, as most of the game's story is non-existent in the manga, relegating Demigra's tale to just a footnote, but things are going to start lining up more as we go on. So now, let's head into the second act. Now the manga returns to give us some different interpretations of events. At some point, Towa had kidnapped Zeno Dende, brainwashing him into creating the Dark Dragon Balls. This set is still multiple wish orbs numbered 1 through 7. However, they are now crimson red with black stars in the middle. The mind-controlled deity activates them, but before they could be used, they scatter across different eras of the Zeno timeline. So Mechigabura's forces move out, with him turning his strongest soldiers into demon gods. In the manga, Xenogoku and Xenotrunks return from their half a year of training, made possible by Chronoa speeding up time in a training room so only 3 days passed outside. This training is likely why Trunks can go Super Saiyan 3 later in the story.
Oh my god!
You can see during the one image we get of this that they actually wear Xenovegeta's armor as they train. Which is weird, as I thought that Xenovegeta's armor may have come from being turned into a Timebreaker, since the design is similar to Mira and the Masked Saiyan. And you know, he just also had the design before putting the mask on, due to the developers not wanting to make 2 different armors for Xenovegeta. That was just my assumption at the time. I don't know, I guess this is just standard future training armor. Since the game and manga differ greatly here, I'll talk about them separately. The Supreme Kai of Time detects an anomaly on Earth, so our heroes urgently head there to find it being invaded by Demon Realm forces. The Dark Empire has its own massive military, consisting of countless foot soldiers that resemble something out of Star Wars' Galactic Empire. They even utilize massive spaceships that teleport across space and time, meaning nowhere is safe from their vast numbers.
どうかしら？魔人の力を手に入れたこの姿は。
とは魔人の力だと凄まじいパワーを感じるぞ。気をつけてくれ。
Demon Goddess Towa ends up overpowering the Time Patrol, but leaves them to search for the 1-star Dark Dragon Ball. Trunks and the others take this opportunity to train in order to face her again in the future. According to the trailers, Chronoa imparts some Potara earrings in order for Vegeta and Trunks to become Xenovegex. Afterwards, the Frieza force is found on Earth, with the Tyrant himself having the Dark Dragon Ball embedded into his chest. It seems these demonic wish orbs parasitically attach to their host, turning them into a Dark Dragon Ball fighter. It enhances their strength immensely, allowing them to overcome the heroes who defeated them in the story. And despite their blanked out eyes and wild expressions, strangely the warriors remain conscious and fight of their own accord. Zarbon and Dodoria accompany Frieza with dark auras and red eyes. It's very reminiscent of their appearances the Timebreaker Control gave them in Dragon Ball Online, with the Dark Dragon Ball also kind of being where the Timebreaker Crystal is placed. Frieza is killed, and Towa attempts to stop the Time Patrol from interfering further. That small bit of training must have made quite the difference, since Towa is now forced to retreat. In the manga, Supreme Kai of Time finds a distortion in space-time originating from Age 762 in the Namek arc, with Dark Dragon Ball Frieza easily defeating Super Saiyan Goku. Xenotrunks and Xenogoku interfere, with Namek Goku wondering how strong an attack from 2 Gokus could be. Both together fire a dual Kamehameha, with Frieza using 100% power to stop the blasts. Trunks uses this opportunity to slice Frieza in half, but Towa ends up stealing the ball before retreating. Trunks, not wanting them to leave unscathed, fires a Super Kamehameha that Goku taught him and completely destroys Mira. Towa teleports away absolutely furious, and the Time Patrol leaves to let history play out like normal. In the manga, Chronoa senses 2 disturbances in time, going with Goku to investigate one, and Trunks to be paired with the newest member, Xenovegeta, to investigate the other. Upset that Goku was his son's idea of the strongest warrior, he's eager to prove otherwise. They are now able to track down the Dark Dragon Ball thanks to a device Xenobalma made. Though I'm guessing she's not the Yun Bulma we see in the first trailer, probably just a version who's Vegeta's wife. The Time Patrol heads to Age 767 on the day of the Cell Games. In the manga, it's just Trunks and Vegeta finding their past selves totally defeated, with Trunks calling Cell Games Vegeta his father's past self, and not something like alternate self, and the fact these past villains all have the Zeno subtitle, we can infer this is all still the same Zeno timeline. The Dark Empire is present, with Gravy revealed to have become a demon god.
相変わらず目障りな連中じゃの。しかし魔人の力を得たわしにとってはもはや敵ではないがな。
貴様はグレイビー。その姿は一体。
Zenocell has been possessed with the 2-star Dark Dragon Ball, giving him enough power to easily handle Super Saiyan 2 Gohan and the other Z fighters. He's pleased to see Xenotrunks, excited to end his life yet again. In the manga, Zeno Vegeta easily defeats Cell and Base until Gravy knocks him out, with Demon God Poutine arriving behind him.
プティン、貴様まで魔人の力を手に入れたというのか。
そうですよ。あの方にいただいたこの力でものすごく破壊したい気分なの。
As the situation is looking dire, Trunks uses Potara earrings to become Zeno Vegex. During their fight, Poutine empowers Cell into the grotesque form of Cell X.
これで貴様たちも終わりだ。
This design was originally for a resurrected form of Cell in Dragon Ball Online, nurtured by Toa. The process seems painful and disgusting, but gives him extraordinary power. Unfortunately for him though, the Time Patrol managed to destroy him and the Demon Gods retreat. In the manga's version of events, Vegex and Gravy retaliate against the Wild Beast, destroying him entirely. But unfortunately, Vegex defuses soon afterwards. Before Gravy can kill them, Kronoa teleports them out, allowing the demons to claim the 2-star ball. She lets them know that Goku and her are in a terrible spot of their own, as we see Goku facing a familiar silhouette and the Dark Army surrounding him. It's around this time Zeno Bardock is recruited by Kronoa in the game. To prepare for the battles ahead, he faces his past in the forms of his old crew, Frieza, Chilled, and the Timebreakers. Gine thinks she recognizes him, but disregards it, wishing him well on his journey. Trunks finds Zeno Dabra, now a demon god, searching for Zeno Kid Buu.
というのか。この地球をお前たちの好きにはさせない。
小賢しいやつらめ。私は魔人ブーにしか用はない。邪魔をするならば先に貴様らから消してやる。
Interesting to think that in the manga, Zeno Goku and Base survived this long against a powered-up Kid Buu. But since he is GT Goku, he should be able to handle regular Kid Buu without going anything more than Super Saiyan 1. The Berserking Majin has been strengthened by the 3-star Dark Dragon Ball and is wildly attacking Earth. Both parties end up finding Buu, causing a 3-way clash. While Dabra is forced to retreat, he ends up cornering and defeating the Majin. But the demon lets his guard down, allowing Buu to absorb him and become Dark Demon God Buu. The Time Patrol manages to defeat the enhanced Buu along with the Dark Empire forces. In the manga, Dark Demon God Buu one-shots the whole Dark Army present. Goku is saved by Trunks and the young patroller gives him enough time to fuse with Vegeta into Zeno Vegito. Before Buu could be cut down though, he's protected by a mysterious demon. Meanwhile, Mechikabura and his soldiers arrive at a familiar tree. In the game, Zeno Goku fights Zeno Turles in the Tree of Might era, with the Space Pirate infected with the 4-star Dark Dragon Ball.
おめえはタレスだな。新生児が入ってたからもしかしてって思ってたけど、おめえまた悪さしてんか？カカロットか。あの時の俺と同じと思うなよ。
Interestingly, Turles says he's gotten stronger since their last fight, meaning he's already faced Saiyan Arc Goku. The manga differs here, as the Time Patrol never arrives, still dealing with the unfolding situation in the Buu arc. The mysterious demonic figure disappears along with Zeno Buu, leaving the Time Patrol baffled. In both versions, Mechikabura arrives with his men to steal the Dark Dragon Ball. In the manga, a new warrior called the Dark Masked King easily handles the Saiyan Renegade. He was granted some of Mechikabura's own magic, becoming a personification of the Demon King's power. Outmatched in either scenario, Turles eats some fruit of the Tree of Might, which painfully combines with the power of darkness the Dark Dragon Ball grants. This creates Turles' Berserker form, putting him on a whole other level. The demonic warrior Salsa steps up, but struggles against the enhanced Saiyan, believing his power rivals or even surpasses a demon god. Mechikabura then effortlessly disintegrates Turles with a single blast, obtaining the 4-star ball with ease. He's disappointed in the Dark Masked King's strength, suggesting they power him up as they leave. Meanwhile, in the game, Salsa holds back Trunks from assisting Goku. The Dark Masked King then faces Trunks next, wishing to test the power gifted to him. Xeno Vegeta feels like he knows this guy, but can't quite place why. After the King's mask chips away, the prince thinks he's uncovered his identity, but finds it impossible to be true. Mechikabura arrives in person, disappointed that he has to get his hands dirty. He orders Salsa and the Dark Masked King to assist him, and the Time Patrol barely hold their own. Despite having the upper hand, the old Demon King makes a tactical retreat to conserve his energy. Knowing now how outmatched they are, Trunks suggests the Time Patrol get back to training. As they mull over what to do next in the manga, the Demon Boy appears before them yet again, suggesting they work together to help quell the threat of Dark Demon God Buu.
ガードを越して攻撃だ。完璧だ。
修行し直してこい。
決まった。
In the manga, Towa and Shroom easily murder Fusion Reborn Goku, caring only about Zeno Janemba. The game plays out much like the assault on the Hell Gate sub-arc, as the Time Patrol are to traverse the multiple hells in order to reach their goal. Xeno Trunks finds Towa in Scorching Hell, requiring them to find keys to advance further. Xeno Goku assists in fighting these mysterious Reaper soldiers found in the area, being far tougher than the typical Dark Empire troops. As the Timebreakers and innocent Janemba clones are relieved of their keys, Super Pikkon arrives to help. This is a version of the character introduced in Evil Dragon Mission 7, the same mission that showed the world official Super Saiyan 4 Broly. Towa orders the demon Shroom to fight the Time Patrol, yet in an act of disobedience he threatens Towa. She hates dealing with this crazy maverick, but his power speaks for itself, as he is the one conjuring the Reaper soldiers littered throughout Hell. The demons are defeated and the heroes advance. Next up is Glacial Hell, with Xeno Vegeta and Xeno Gohan arriving to help. They end up facing Xeno Janemba, who is in possession of the 5-star Dark Dragon Ball. After fighting him, the dark power evolves him into evil demon Xeno Janemba, and he retreats further into Hell. The monster is cut in half by Shroom in the manga, but reforms into this new state. As the fighting continues into Chaotic Hell, and the battles only get tougher, Goku and Vegeta decide to fuse into Xeno Gogeta. As Shroom manages to destroy the evolved creature in the manga, the Demon Boy arrives with Goku and Vegeta. He's referred to as Shamel by Towa, and he makes his betrayal to them clear. Funny enough, Shamel is the only representation of a player avatar in the manga, as he is one of the Demon Realm race avatars, explaining his absence from the arcade story. Janemba is beaten down in the game, but before Towa can swoop in and take the ball, Dark Demon God Zenobuu comes out of nowhere and absorbs Janemba, thereby becoming, and say it with me now, Dark Demon God Zenobuu, Xeno Janemba absorbed. Woo! I love Dragon Ball Heroes names, yes! Even though he just absorbed someone with about the same amount of intelligence, Buu now has the ability to talk. He ends up teleporting away with Towa in hot pursuit, desiring the Dark Dragon Balls and the return of her brother. As Goku and Vegeta struggle against Shroom in the manga, Zenobuu arrives and absorbs Janemba, like we saw before. Goku and Vegeta have no energy left in their bodies, thanks to Shroom's Grim Reaper ability that shaves off the opponent's souls piece by piece. Seeing no other choice, they fuse into Xeno Gogeta. Meanwhile, Chronoa decides to summon a new helper to assist Trunks in the next mission. The Time Patrol find themselves in the age of Lord Slug, who is relishing the power of the 6-star Dark Dragon Ball.
永遠の若さに加え、さらなる力をもたらす暗黒ドラゴンボール。素晴らしい。
While it of course increases his power, this single ball alone also restored his youth. Since it restored him to his prime, I guess you could also see these balls as a potential unlock. Toa comes to rain down on the Namekian's parade, but Trunks along with Zeno Gohan arrives to stop them both. In the game, Zeno Goku and Vegeta battle alongside them. After the Dark Empire and Slug army are beaten back, Slug joins the fight himself, but the Time Patrol are too much for him. Gohan, having faced him in the past, knows his weakness is whistling, and so brings the monster down to his knees with a tune. Before Zeno Trunks can follow up, a bunch of swords rip through portals to stab Slug, brought in by Dark Demon God Buu. While the Namekians weakened, Buu has found an opening to steal another Dark Dragon Ball. However, the Time Patrol defeats the Majin, causing him to break down and lose Dabura, Janemba, and the 2 Dark Dragon Balls inside of him. Toa sees the winds blowing in her favor and decides to cause Slug to undergo a Dark Evolution, a technique she apparently learned from Poutine. In the manga, she does this out of desperation being chased by Shamel. Also, is his name really Shamel, or is it Shamel? Shamel? Sean Shamel. Slug then enters a super giant form with dark power spewing out of his back, and has his lower half fused into the planet itself. Knowing the odds are against them, Gohan offers to fuse with Trunks, becoming Zeno Gohanks. Yet Slug is still too tanky for Gohanks' attacks to have much effect. In the manga, Salsa battles Buu. But before the Majin can attack Toa, Salsa uses his technique, Trick of Tornado, to completely wipe away Buu and Slug at the same time. No matter which scenario, Slug is defeated, and Toa snatches the Dragon Ball before retreating. And she also gets Majin Buu's 2 Dragon Balls and Dabura back, resulting in an absolute win for the Dark Empire. Deciding they need to get even stronger, the Time Patrol trains with Zeno Vegito, who now powers up to Super Kaioken. As Poutine and Gravy report Toa's success, Mechikabura requests that Toa brings a mask for their captive prisoner. Chronoa finds the last Dark Dragon Ball in a time-space controlled by the Dark Empire, looking to stop their plans by any means. This turns out to be the Demon Realm itself. Xenoparagus, brainwashed by Toa, found a Dark Dragon Ball warrior asleep in hell, slipped a Timebreaker mask upon them, and brought them here. The mid-class Saiyan holds Trunks back for a time, and so does Toa, fooling around until the brainwashing of their new warrior is complete. Toa leaves to check on the experiment's progress, but it seems that the mind control completely failed.
まさか洗脳が効かないなんて。
力がみなぎる、溢れる。これは一体どうなっているんだ。全てを破壊し尽くしてやる。
And so Dark Broly, possessor of the 7-star Dark Dragon Ball, goes on a rampage. The Time Patrol can barely hurt him, but they are able to crack his mask. The manga ends up being a bit different. Back in Hell, as Zeno Gogeta defuses, Goku and Vegeta attempt to escape through a dark portal. Shrew moves in to stop Goku, but Vegeta holds the demon back and faces him alone. In the Dark Demon Realm's southeast prison complex, the uncontrollable Dark Broly is going on a rampage. A portal opens up in front of the warrior, with Zeno Goku rising up to face him one-on-one. This causes Broly to go into a rage and break his mask, urging Toa and Paragus to rein him in before it's too late. Paragus gets knocked through the same portal Goku came through, and so Mechikabura orders the Dark Masked King to go retrieve him. Toa puts all her power into one final brainwashing spell, but Broly shakes it off and mortally wounds her. Suddenly, Mira arrives to save his master, and in the manga, the demon gods ponder if he's a new android, since, Trunks killed him before. Right as Towa is about to pass away from her injuries, he merges with her. But unlike in Xenoverse 2, this isn't out of a lust for power, but a need to protect what Mira treasures most. Final Form Mira proves too strong of a foe and immediately sets his sights on Broly. Meanwhile, the Saiyan Berserker is still facing off against Zeno Goku. While Kronoa told Goku not to use his full power, fearful of the effect it would have on time, he decides it's now or never, forcing the Time Patroller to go Super Saiyan 4. While some may see this as Zeno Goku's power distorting time and space normally, it's more likely it would just affect the already broken timeline the Dark Empire have twisted. In the game, the Time Patrol backs Goku up and defeats the hulking menace, but Mira takes advantage of the situation to snatch the Dragon Ball. In the manga, Goku, Broly, and Mira engage in a three-way Super Saiyan 4-ish brawl. With all three launching their strongest attacks, only one comes out the winner. Mira stands alone, having saved Towa and taken the final Dark Dragon Ball for the glory of the Dark Empire. Mechikabura now has all 7 Dark Dragon Balls in his grasp, summoning Dark Shenron into reality.
覚悟は良いか
This rips space and time asunder, causing strange events like an alternate Bardock from a different timeline to challenge the Time Patrol as a Super Saiyan 4. It turns out he was initially supposed to be Super Saiyan God here, but the producers ended up changing their minds. Makes sense because that guy is not pure of heart at all. We'll also find ourselves with a similar last-minute decision change in the near future. Dark Shenron is ordered by Mechikabura to grant the Demon King eternal youth, but restoring him to full power immediately is too much for him.
貴様の力は強大すぎる。それなりの時間が必要だ。それでも良いなら叶えてやるぞ。さあ、どうする？問題ない。この時のため。悠久の時を魔界で過ごしていたのだ。あと数刻くらい、いくらでも待ってやろう。承知したぞ。
The Dark Empire halt the Time Patrol as they ascend the tower, including a fully rejuvenated Towa. When she finds herself on the losing end of the battle, Mira tells her to retreat out of concern for her safety. The Dark Masked King prevents the heroes from climbing any higher, alongside Xenoparagus.
その程度で俺は倒れんぞ。
くそ、手強い奴らだ。早く頂上に向かわないといけないのに。
てめえの相手は俺がしてやるぜ。
バーダックさん、
先に進みたいんだろ。さっさと行け。俺はこいつに用があるんだ。
In the game, Bardock sees through his disguise, claiming a Saiyan King bowing before someone else is pathetic. The manga shows Zeno Bardock arriving in a desolate wasteland, finding his old Timebreaker mask on the ground. If you recall, Xenoparagus got thrown through a portal with the Dark Masked King pursuing him. Paragus, now freed of his mind control, fights to secure his and Broly's freedom, but the Dark Masked King is too strong. Bardock saves him from certain death and calls the Crimson Warrior a weakling for allowing the Timebreakers to still have a hold on him. The Dark Masked King becomes furious at the lack of respect given from someone he deems low-class trash. The Royal Warrior sheds his form to reveal that he is in fact King Vegeta, to the shock of absolutely everyone, I'm sure. He says he actually allowed himself to be controlled so that he could gain the darkness magic and become the ultimate Saiyan King. Like father, like son, huh? King Vegeta wishes to return to the day of his race's annihilation and wipe out Frieza. He even wants to snuff out Beerus, so the Saiyans may take their seats as the most powerful force in the universe. He offers Paragus and Bardock a chance to join him, but the outclassed Saiyans refuse. Bardock cannot overcome the wall that is the Saiyan King, resorting to his final gambit, the Timebreaker mask, to make up the difference. He experienced firsthand that you can't change the fate that's set in stone, that even proud Saiyans must accept the past. The only thing you can decide is how you face your future. Bardock puts his old mask on, resisting its dark power and harnessing it into Super Saiyan 3. But despite the headgear pushing him to the 3rd level, he still can't win in the game. Before King Vegeta can land the final blow though, Paragus stabs him from behind.
ベジータをあなたへの恨みここで晴らさせてもらいます。バラガスこの下級戦士風情がくそサイヤ人の王が下級戦士などに
ていいところを持ってかれちまったな。さてあいつらのところに戻るか。
In the manga, Paragus stabs King Vegeta as Bardock prepares an attack, giving the low-class warrior enough time to charge it. As the angered king blasts Paragus away with a fatal attack, the dying father apologizes for not being able to save Broly. But with this, they'll have their revenge against the man who ruined their lives. The beam clash between Bardock and King Vegeta creates a giant explosion, gaining the attention of Mechikabura. The Dark King is very pleased that their battle most likely wiped the Saiyan remnants out for good. Perhaps like Frieza, he's fully aware of and cautious about the Saiyan race's potential for power and their ability to be a thorn in his side. He gathers all 7 Dark Dragon Balls together, entering the final stage of his plan. As Xeno Vegeta is almost killed by Shroom, Xeno Gotenks arrives to defeat him, meaning in the manga, Xeno Goten has now been recruited into the Time Patrol. Shroom retreats and Kronoa rewinds Vegeta's injuries back in time. The Dark Empire summons the dragon as the Time Patrol attempts to stop them, with Kronoa telling Gotenks and Vegeta to go wild. Considering the GT Perfect files state that Vegeta couldn't go Super Saiyan 4 at will due to not having a tail, this means Xeno Vegeta has achieved the form on his own. Well, just ignore that Xenogoku doesn't have one either. Sean Schemmel arrives to assist the Time Patrol and transforms into a demon god as well. As the Time Patrol reach Mechikabura, the defeated demon gods are all revitalized by his power and sent to stall them. Gotenks defuses, and so Xeno Goten holds Dabura back while Trunks assists Kronoa, who is beelining straight for Mechikabura. Kronoa's time reversal of Vegeta's injuries don't stop them from returning, so he feels the effect of the Shroom fight come back to him. In desperation, the worn-out Goku and Vegeta fuse into Xeno Gogeta to face their foes. Trunks and Kronoa arrive at the top of Mechikabura's tower, but Dark Shenron smacks the Yun Saiyan away like it's nothing. Kronoa breaks free the power of time she's collected for millions of years so she can face the Demon King in her Time Power Unleashed form. The reason she appears as a child normally is because her body is continuously storing power for millions of years until she enters this form. Mechikabura is defeated in his old withered state, but just in time the wish is granted. Kronoa tries to create something with her power of time, but Mechikabura, now back in his prime, interrupts her, proving the gap in power is too great between them. Knowing he now has the power to control space-time as he wishes, Kronoa sees no other choice but to seal herself and Mechikabura outside of time-space with a spell called Time Labyrinth. The Demon King curses her and the Time Patrol, realizing she always planned to do this if his wish was granted. As Trunks and Co are sent back to the Time Nest, they realize Kronoa has erased the Demon Realm from history. We see Shamel bowing down to his true master, Demigra. As the Time Patrol vow to save Kronoa, it's also time for the Demigra faction to truly make their move. And with that, we end the Dark Empire saga. Now we reach the 3rd and final act of this story. We have finished God Mission and Super Dragon Ball Heroes. Now it's time for Universe Mission. It's debated whether or not the Prison Planet saga of Universe Mission happens before or after this arc. But for now, we'll just wait to talk about the Prison Planet saga in the future. The first part of this arc is actually game exclusive, which is kinda crazy. I can understand how its important elements are used later in the manga, but to me, it helps paint a broader picture when it comes to Demigra's role. I guess the manga really just wanted to focus on the Dark Empire plot with this arc and not have Demigra take up so much focus. Anyway, as Trunks searches for a way to save Kronoa, the Old Kai appears. I don't know when the old coot decided to join up, but I guess they wanted brand synergy with Xenoverse 2's Time Patrol. He says they could use Toki Toki's power along with Demigra's staff to enter the Time Labyrinth. But only if they could somehow get a hold of it, as the evil magician was locked away in the Crack of Time during their last battle. No Chronoa means no real way to access that realm. But much to their surprise, a time scroll reveals the Dark Magician had escaped the Crack of Time, which now actually works in the hero's favor. Goku and Vegeta are out of commission, so it's up to the Saiyan hybrids to handle the search for the Demon God. The reason the Saiyan duo are injured may actually be because of the Prison Planet arc, which we'll cover in another video. Before the rest go on their search though, Goten requests that the Elder Kai unlock his and Gohan's potential, so now they will have access to their ultimate forms. Trunks tries to teleport to Demigra's location in time-space, but nothing happens. The reason becomes clear once a giant modified turtle fortress named Shirogame appears in the Time Nest out of nowhere, with Demigra and his secretary Robaloo riding atop it. After a brief confrontation, Demigra demands the Time Bird Toki Toki be handed over, but the Time Patrol refuse and abandon the Time Nest. They flee to Earth, but the demonic magician doesn't let them escape his grasp. He unleashes the Zeno Shadow Dragons upon them. While it's never expressly stated how they were created, it's assumed the negative energy brought about by Mechikabura's insanely powerful wish caused them to emerge. Along with slightly altered colors, they bear the markings of demon gods on their bodies. As this all-out battle rages on, going poorly for Trunks and friends, Toki Toki returns to the Time Nest to speed up Goku and Vegeta's healing process, with Old Kai filling them in on what's transpired. Despite Goku claiming the dragons are far more powerful than their GT counterparts, he and Vegeta handle Zeno Haze, Zeno Rage, and Zeno Nodoron efficiently. Gohan faces Zeno Oceanus while Vegeta faces Zeno Ice, but Oceanus saves Ice before the Saiyan Prince can finish him off. The Time Patrol enters Shirogame, but Zeno Nova Shenron prevents their advance. However, Goku steps up for a rematch, probably wishing to settle the fight they never finished. Assuming that went down like it did in the GT timeline. Ice interrupts the fight and freezes Goku's arms, much to Nova's protests. Even with Demon God energy in his veins, he still has that warrior spirit. The remaining Zeno Shadow Dragons are wiped out, with Demigra being impressed, sending Zeno Sin Shenron to finish them. After their scuffle, Sin absorbs the other Dragon Balls to become Zeno Omega Shenron. But even the final form of the final GT villain isn't enough, so Demigra empowers him to a transcended form, much like he can do as well. His appearance resembles Dark Shenron, especially with the red tentacle mane. Gohan and Trunks step up to become Super Saiyan 3 Zeno Gohanks, finally wiping out the demonic dragon for good. Demigra commends his foes for getting stronger thanks to the battles against the evil dragons, and faces them himself. It's looking bad for our timeline defenders until a large key interrupts the fight, shaking everyone to their core. Immediately, Demigra switches up and proposes a truce, as none of them can handle what's coming alone. From the Dark Portal, Prime Mechikabura emerges with Chronoa as his prisoner. In the manga's version of events, we see Mechikabura escape the Time Labyrinth, now in his perfected state, enhancing his followers with new and improved Demon God forms. The Dark Empire attacks the Time Patrol in West City, one after another with their newly upgraded powers. Robaloo transports everyone away, much to Toa's annoyance. But Mechikabura, now in his Dark King state, suggests they take over Earth for fun in the meantime. Robaloo requests the Time Patrol and Demigra army work together against their shared enemy. Despite any misgivings, it's clear this is the best option for both sides. First, they need to acquire the Dark Dragon Balls to undo Chronoa's brainwashing, so they seek out Omega Shenron. Meanwhile, Toa shows off her new experiment to the Demon King, an artificial Majin named Finn. Mechikabura finds it intriguing and so imparts some of his own magic into it. The manga has the Time Patrol notice a new change in history and go to investigate, with Shamel notifying Demigra that they took the bait. The Time Patrol arrive in Age 790 during the battle between Gogeta and Omega Shenron. Despite their urgency to get here, Toa had already beat them to this period and brainwashed the Z Fighters. Zeno Gogeta is formed to quickly dispatch them, and they defeat Omega Shenron. However, Toa revives the fallen Shadow Dragon and sends Finn into battle. Despite GT Gogeta putting up a good fight, he's caught off guard and absorbed by Finn. This transforms the beast into Dark Gogeta, now with the ability to talk. His strength is incredible, and since Zeno Gogeta's fusion ran out a bit ago, no one can stop him. In the manga, however, Demigra's group arrives, assisting the Time Patrol and giving them enough time for Super Saiyan 4 Zeno Gogeta to be formed, giving them a good chance against Finn. Toa is called to meet with Mechikabura, but wishes to see how things will play out here first, much to the dismay of Gravy and Poutine. Robaloo, utilizing her magic, rebuilds Bulma's Blitzwave machine. She orders Zeno Gohan, along with some convincing from Goku and Vegeta, to use it and become a Super Saiyan 4. I guess Toa messing with the timeline earlier in God Mission 5 was undone, meaning Gohan no longer knew how to go Super Saiyan 4 anymore. Then again, think about what character we're talking about. Zeno Gohan himself already needed his potential unlocked by Elder Kai, possibly for the second time. So who knows? In the manga, we see him transform into a great ape, controlling its violent tendencies and awakening. While not represented in gameplay, the trailer for this mission shows Finn attacking Poutine and Gravy, therefore showing a level of uncontrollability with the Majin in some situations. Dark Gogeta one-shots Omega Shenron in the manga, to no one's surprise. Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta fights Dark Gogeta in this version, with Gohan backing him up and defeating the Majin. After a fierce battle between Super Saiyan 4s, Gogeta's face is partially revealed. He's now woken up, scoffing that Finn thought he could control him that easily. In the manga, he suggests that Finn couldn't really control him and he was actually just taking Finn's body for a test drive. Now, using the Majin's power for himself, he swiftly defeats Omega Shenron, then forces the parasite off his body. Finn looks and acts like his old self again for a second, but then reforms back into Dark Gogeta, as Toa explains he can memorize the form of anyone he has possessed. Although the Majin can't match up to the fused Saiyans, Toa says he still has plenty of room to grow, so she'll just have him copy other warriors as well. Demigra faces Poutine, tired of these traitors who dare stand in his way. Gravy says they can't keep Mechikabura waiting any longer, so the Dark Empire retreats for now. Robaloo infuses the power of darkness into the GT Dragon Balls, summoning Dark Shenron. They ask for the demonic dragon to undo Kronoa's brainwashing, but he says he cannot reach Mechikabura's magic from here. Therefore, Demigra wishes for himself to have the power to undo Mechikabura's brainwashing, and Dark Shenron grants it. In the manga, the climax is a lot more intense, as a mind-controlled Kronoa stops time for the Dark Empire forces to escape, giving Gravy time to charge up an attack capable of wiping out the whole world. Robaloo, having collected the Dragon Balls, orders Shamel to teleport everyone to a different time space. As Dabra is concerned over the fate of the Demon Realm, the rest of the Demon Gods arrive at Mechikabura's tower, who says the Time Patrol are on their way to his castle. Pan asks to join the heroes on their assault of the Demon Realm. Trunks thinks it's better than just leaving her in the ruined GT era, so she joins the force as Xenopan. The manga implies that Xenopan's world has been erased, which would lead you to think she's from an entirely separate timeline from the other Xenos. If that's true, it begs the question if every Xeno character is from the same timeline or not. But I don't think she's from a different one, as the Xeno timeline Goku's death didn't erase Xeno Goku. I suppose as long as time eventually gets corrected, the Xeno characters can continue existing thanks to time manipulation protection. Trunks demands to know where Kronoa is, to which Mechikabura tells him they must climb his tower, but they must first disable the barrier protecting it. In order to do so, they need to fight a demon god at each of the 6 Hell Gates, with Xenotrunks using a key sword provided by Demigra to seal each of them. The manga has Shamel open the portals to all 6 Hell Gates, while Robaloo transforms Trunks' sword into a key sword. Remember those things that sealed up the Hell Gates a while ago? It's one of those. Hellgate 1 is in the Buu Arc era, guarded by Zeno Dabura. Zeno, Pan, and Trunks work together to defeat him and seal the gate. In the manga, it's Zeno Goten who faces him. Hellgate 2 is in Garlic Jr.'s castle, defended by Gravy. Gohan remembers this area and faces this fortress from his past before sealing the gate. The manga instead has Vegeta request a rematch for the Cell X fight. Hellgate 3 is on planet Konauts, guarded by Poutine. Xenogoku tries to have a friendly reunion with Tapion, but the hero has been brainwashed in order to free Harudagarn. Goku wins and seals the gate. In the manga, Robaloo faces the Demigra army traitor, defeating her by shooting her own men back like a missile. Hellgate 4 is in the Resurrection F era, guarded by Towa. Does this mean the movie's events happened in the Zeno timeline, or is this another one entirely? Hard to say. Zeno Vegeta defeats her and Frieza, sealing up the gate. There you go, there's your Vegeta win against Frieza. In the manga, Shamel faces Towa and Finn, with the Majin retaining his biological memory of his time as Dark Gogeta. As the young demon runs out of options, and as Towa tries to convince him to return to the Dark Empire, Dark Broly appears out of nowhere. Hellgate 5 is located on new planet Tuffle, guarded by Salsa. The demon god calls Demigra a traitor, but Demigra just disregards him as a weakling, defeating his forces and sealing the gate. Xenogoku is the one who faces him in the manga. Hellgate 6 is in GT's Hell during the Super 17 arc, guarded by Shroom. Xenogoten defeats his forces and seals the final gate. The manga has Zeno Gohan face Shroom, with Pan sneaking along. Gohan berates her for coming, as it's too dangerous of a mission. But as Shroom steals some of Gohan's spirit, Pan defends her papa from being Grim Reapered. He stands up with all his might to save his daughter, becoming a Super Saiyan 4 and working with Pan to secure a win. Everyone regroups, including a wounded but victorious Shamel, as Broly's rampage forced Towa to retreat. The tower's barrier disappears, and the demon gods face the Time Patrol all at once, but all fall to the onslaught of Saiyan and Demigra forces. Their only way forward now is entering the castle to find Kronoa and free her. According to the trailer for this mission set, Zeno's Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta uses Kaioken in this part, but despite having a playable card, it's not represented in the game, story, or manga. After dispensing with the usual Timebreaker fodder of Majin android twins Haru Haru and Shun Shun, General Bon, and other minions, Zeno Dabura halts the Time Patrol's progress. Goku finds Dark Broly's dead body, with Demigra deciding to revive and empower him with Demon God magic. After a scuffle with the Time Patrol, Broly retreats. Demigra assumes he's going to search out more Demon God energy. This makes him an obstacle for the Dark Empire, and so a useful tool in the Magician's eyes. Shroom, Poutine, and Salsa all stand in the Time Patrol's path, yet fail all the same. Finally, Trunks and Goku find Kronoa, but she transforms into her Time Power Unleashed form upon seeing her allies as enemies. Despite Demigra and Robaloo getting hurt in the battle, they manage to subdue Kronoa, and Robaloo heads back to the Time Nest to recover. The Supreme Kaiotime regains her senses thanks to Demigra's help and vows to stop Mechikabura once and for all. Before they can catch their breath though, Towa sics Mira upon the exhausted Time Patrol, now having absorbed Finn to make himself even stronger. Even with such a power-up, the group fails to stop our heroes, and so retreats. Elsewhere, Zeno Bardock and Zeno King Vegeta find each other after their last battle. Everything involving these two going forward is absent from the manga. Bardock is still berating him for being Mechikabura's pawn, and King Vegeta demands that a low-class warrior should bow to their king. In the midst of battle though, Zeno Bardock goes Super Saiyan 4, baffling the king that a form condensing the Great Ape's power like that is possible. Bardock asks that they join forces to defeat Mechikabura. Despite the Saiyan King's stubbornness, he knows he's just been a pawn to a villain that completely overpowers him, just like with Frieza. Bardock appeals to his Saiyan spirit, declaring they should defeat the Demon King and take back their pride as a warrior race. As the Time Patrol faces Mechikabura, he orders Dark Shenron to create a Chaos Ball, a black hole of pure dark power, to absorb everything in existence. Even with Demigra at their side, they can't stop him, and so the Demon King orders Dark Shenron to grant the wish. The Time Patrol are simply forced to retreat back to the Time Nest. The manga plays out quite differently. With all the Hellgate seals broken, the Time Patrol plan their next move, but Chronoa ambushes them by using her Time Freeze, immobilizing the patrollers and Demigra's forces. However, the Key Sword protects Trunks from this ability, and he rushes in to save her. As she strikes him with the power of darkness again and again, he sees her memories since being captured. Furious at the torment they put her through, he goes Super Saiyan 3 and purifies the darkness within her, tears filling his eyes. Their heartfelt reunion is cut short though, as Mechikabura makes an explosive entrance to their hideout. Trunks can't even harm him with the Key Sword, but Mechikabura also realizes he cannot destroy the sword himself. He tosses the weapon far away and summons the defeated demon gods. Despite their apologies for their weakness, he considers them worthless failures and absorbs them. This gives him his own Time Power Unleashed form. His goal now is to invade the Time Nest and absorb Toki Toki into his very being, giving him the power he was robbed of 75 million years ago. Chronoa asks Trunks to stop him, and the other Saiyans give Trunks their energy. A strange power unlike anything they've ever felt flows into him. This reminds Chronoa that an angel told her of a legend involving 5 pure-hearted Saiyans, when pouring their power into another, creates a special power. As space and time have been completely destroyed, Chronoa quells the fears of the Time Patrol by assuring them Toki Toki will use its powers to restore it all. Demigra, though, reminds her that Mechikabura knows this, and so will send the full might of the Dark Empire to Time Patrol HQ. The Demon King's forces launch an all-out attack, tearing the Time Nest apart. Toa suggests that Finn be used to finish them off, having absorbed the power of the Shadow Dragons to enter his ultimate evolution. Finn memorizes every attack thrown at him, so a prolonged fight only works against the Time Patrol. Chronoa says the only way to handle this is to use the power of all 6 Saiyans into one in order to create a power equal to a god. And so she decides the chosen warrior will be Trunks. Initially, Trunks was going to become a Super Saiyan 4 in this arc, but the producer explains they couldn't decide on his hair color and just settled on Super Saiyan God. I mean, I guess it would look kinda weird to have purple-haired Super Saiyan 4, and Trunks' distinctive visual is that he doesn't have dark hair like the other Saiyans, so I guess this was the easiest choice. As Demigra demands Toki Toki from the old Kai in the manga, Chronoa brings God Trunks through a portal to stop him. Trunks' undetectable God Ki masks just how powerful he is, so when he easily handles Finn, the Dark Empire looks on in shock. In the manga, with Chronoa's help, Trunks easily defeats the Majin and attempts to strike Mechikabura. The Callous King teleports Toa in front of himself to take the blow, saying he has no need for allies. As Mechikabura isn't able to handle Trunks easily, he utilizes the Chaos Ball to empower himself. With space-time worth over tens of millions of years absorbed into his being, he unleashes his own time power form and starts absorbing everything in sight. He even purposely absorbs his demon gods, only caring about the power they can bring him. Chronoa protects the Time Patrol, and Toa tells Mira to take Finn and run. The two are teleported back to Mechikabura's castle, vowing to go back and save Toa. And here we are, the final part of this arc. So Trunks finds himself inside of the Chaos Ball, with Poutine and Gravy deciding to offer him up in exchange for Mechikabura letting them go. Xenovegeta, Kronoa, Demigra, Robaloo, Toa, and Xenodabra arrive on the scene, with the Kai asking if the demon gods are okay being thrown away like this. But they shut her down and decide to fight. The demon gods retreat, and so Demigra and Kronoa think of a way out involving Trunks' key sword, if they could just find where it had gone. Meanwhile, Salsa and Shroom are alerted to intruders, finding the castle invaders to be Zeno Bardock and Zeno King Vegeta. The Saiyan King is roaring to get his revenge for all the time the demons disrespected him. Mechikabura tells his 2 demon soldiers to fight in their true forms, despite the risk it has on their lives, or they'll die like trash. So they don't really have much of a choice and transform. As they're about to fight, Dark Broly crashes in, turning the situation into an all-out brawl. Bardock and King Vegeta somehow barely manage to defeat the demon gods, but Broly proves too much. King Vegeta hits his limit, saying that his death at Broly's hand is the consequence of his past actions. In a way, Xenoparagus does indeed get his revenge thanks to his son. Bardock faces the brute with no clear way to win, but then he finds the key sword at his feet. Picking up the magical item overwhelms him with power, and the sword itself tells him to defeat Broly. As he ends the rampaging berserker, the weapon urges Bardock to throw it in a certain direction, so he leaves the rest of the battle in the Time Patrol's hands. Kronoa and Demigra see the key sword and use it to escape the Chaos Ball. In the manga, Demigra is simply able to pull the Time Patrol and an unconscious Toa out of the void with these chains of light, skipping pretty much all this journey inside the Chaos Ball. This baffles Mechikabura, as he did not know of something that could oppose his power of darkness. As it turns out, Demigra's wish to Dark Shenron in this adaptation was to gain the power of light to oppose the Demon King. But since he is a demon god who uses darkness magic, he can't use the full capacity of this power, and so he needs the key sword to wield it properly. In the game, much to Mechikabura's fury, he witnesses the Time Patrol, Demigra army, and even the absorbed Time Breakers appearing before him. The demon gods, outside of Salsa and Shroom, join the force against the Demon King, upset at his cold betrayal. Mira and Finn arrive at their side as well. As the Dark King takes them all on, Kronoa and Toki Toki charge the key sword in order to seal the monster once and for all. Goku and Vegeta become Super Saiyan 4 Xenovegeto to hold the demon off, and Demigra assists the charge. In the manga, despite Trunks and Demigra's team attacks landing, the regeneration on the Dark King is on another level thanks to absorbing time into himself. Luckily, Demigra's allies arrive with Xenogoku holding the key sword, so the Demigra forces and Time Patrol are ordered to hold off Mechikabura as Kronoa charges the sword. Goku and Vegeta take the earrings off Old Kai to become Super Saiyan 4 Vegito, having enough raw power to rival the Demon King. As Trunks wields the immense power of the full charge key sword, Mechikabura feels fear. Despite his regeneration letting him hold his own against the whole Time Patrol, Mechikabura is confined by Demigra's chains as Trunks wields the god-slaying sword. Utilizing the power of a god, the power of light, the power of darkness, and the power of time, Mechikabura is marked with a seal, one designed to place him into the Time Labyrinth. The incredible power overwhelms him, and he reverts back to his Dark King form. He starts crying out that he was supposed to plunge the world into darkness, but Xenovegeta punches him out of the Dark King state back into his prime form. God Trunks plunges a sword that seals darkness into his body, turning him back into a withered old man. He promises one day he'll escape, and that all of time will be his. Kronoa tells him to sleep forever, bathed in light, and the demon is trapped once again. Despite the timeline being ruined, Toki Toki is able to restore everything, as it is the true governor of time. Demigra's group retreat as the Time Nest barrier starts to affect them physically. The demon god vows to one day return to steal the position of Supreme Kai of Time, with the Time Patrol vowing themselves to not let that happen. This last battle made it into the anime for a special episode, with not much dramatically changing from the other versions, except for one key difference. Minutes earlier, as Mechikabura was being sealed, his defeat resulted in the collapse of his tower. Present there is Toa and Mira with a baby in the scientist's arms. As they send their child through time, Toa tells him that his era will come, urging him to live on and claim all of existence as his own. He struggles and survives as he wanders through the vastness of time, growing into the man we know as Fu. And so that's the first major storyline of Dragon Ball Heroes. It was the first piece of Dragon Ball content to really give a taste of the Demon Realm, cementing an idea of what it was like before Daima. The Zeno characters represent what I think is the ultimate Toei version of the cast, bringing together the original series, filler, movies, and GT, representing them to their absolute extremes. There's just something so fascinating about this world that feels so alien, but not entirely devoid of feeling like Dragon Ball. The new characters were also fun, each having some cool personality trait or moments to shine. Even if some of them are a little basic, but that's okay, I don't need the entire cast of Dragon Ball Heroes to be fully fleshed out. But what I do love especially is the Chronoa characterization. Dragon Ball Online gave her the setup as the Supreme Kai of Time, Xenoverse gave us her personality and general idea of what she does, but then Heroes digs into her feelings and personal struggles. While not entirely her fault, the Dark Empire was formed because she kept banishing their leaders to the same place, allowing them to congregate and form a crazy strong faction. She internally felt responsible, but the Time Patrol would not let her carry that burden alone. And overall, this is my favorite take on the Time Patrol so far. I'm not done with this series yet, not by a long shot, as I do want to dig into the other arcs, and in there, we'll learn about the parallel world to the Zeno timeline, what I call the Capsule Corp timeline. Hope you're as excited for it as I am. So have a great day, and I'll catch you all later.